Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and other various curious onlookers, gaming nerds and otherwise. Today, I am trying to get back to SimCity to record a more complete, more proper review of the game. My initial first impressions video was based on very little gameplay, due to the horrendous connection issues to the EA servers that surrounded the launch of this game. So we're, like 2 weeks or so later now, and I have been able to play the game a little bit, maybe like 8 hours, something like that, but a lot of that time has still been sitting in front of connection screens. And unfortunately, this game, for me, still is causing some very strange issues. Every time I boot this game, immediately my cable modem resets, which doesn't happen at any other time with any other online activity games, whatever. And while SimCity is running, it continues to do it periodically, every couple of minutes, which is very bizarre. But generally speaking, SimCity can ignore the disconnects and keep running, and then I suppose it just resyncs when it is able to connect. And this appears to be primarily for the purposes of intercity regional simulation. So let's talk a little bit about the game and my thoughts about it so far. Here's one of a number of cities in this private region that I've created that I've been experimenting with. And it looks like we have an abandoned building to take care of. So the very first thing that I'll talk about, because it's the most obvious thing when you begin to play this game, and one of the most annoying things about this game, is the city size. I mean, here you see it. That is the only city size, and it is tiny. It is very tiny. This is supposed to represent, I think, a 2 kilometer by 2 kilometer square, which, it's very, very small. I mean, that's like, roughly a square mile, which, at least in the Midwest of the United States, that's like a farm field. That's about the size of a farm. Yeah, I mean, this would be a very, very tiny little town, little itty-bitty suburb somewhere. The city size is obnoxiously small. It's very difficult to fit everything you want to fit in here, which I understand to some extent is the point, because this new version of SimCity has much more to do with cooperation between cities, and so imposing severe limitations on any one given city is going to increase the likelihood that people are going to try and be cooperative. However, I am not a fan of that so far. It's just, it feels very limiting. It pulls me right out of the illusion. My suspension of disbelief is severely broken by this limitation. Now, one other thing that is related to this limitation that is also very, very annoying. Here's the region view, and as you can see, there are these pre-made tiles that you can put cities on. Now, these tiles do not touch one another, so you cannot create a larger metropolis. You're really just creating these little hamlets that are separated by just nothing, just empty space. And I will add that these regions are not editable by the user. These are pre-created by Maxis. There are only a few of them that I've seen. It's possible that they have added more, but there's only a handful of these regions to pick from. And all of the intercity transport is in the region, it's outside of the city. So the freeways, as you'll see here, the rail system, all of that is outside your city, which means you cannot change that. You can't improve it, you can't edit it, you can't put it where you want, you can't do anything with it. That is, it exists where Maxis decided it was going to exist. And this is a major problem. If I jump back into the city view here, you'll notice that my city, the whole city, is fed by one spur off of the regional highway. You can't create more access to that freeway. You are stuck with that. So what I've noticed is pretty much no matter what you do, this initial area right here that connects to the highway is totally clogged up with traffic. And as you can see, traffic is backed up coming into the city for quite a long ways, and it can go a lot further than this at certain times of day. So, you know, specifically rush hour. So this hampers, this plays with the city size being small in very unfortunate ways. The city is tiny, and now you can't even customize the way that your region is connected to, you know, your city is connected to other cities in the region. And that's a severe limitation. You know, it's one less thing to plan and experiment with that it did exist in previous SimCity games. And that's a major one. You know, your major transport between urban centers is preset. I feel like that's a big oversight, and that reduces the fun of this game by quite a lot. And also because you're creating these separate encapsulated cities, that really reduces the replayability of it quite a bit. You're stuck in this tiny little city, and you soon kind of reach a point where you feel like you've fit everything in that can be fit, and there's nothing left to do in your city. The replayability of this new version of SimCity does seem to be pretty limited. Let's talk about another thing related to these pre-created regions. All the geography here is pre-created, so there are no terraforming tools in SimCity. And this wouldn't necessarily be the worst thing in the world if the terrain worked well with the city building. But as you can see, even out here in the region where you know, where we're not allowed to change anything or build anything, this road is all glitchy and derpy, and it's possible that that is my graphics settings, but I don't think so, because I've seen that on some other people's Let's Plays and such. And you'll see, you know, where you build roads and stuff, the whatever terrain engine they're using decides, you know, how to flatten out the terrain. You get some really weird looking roads sometimes, and weird looking terrain, and there is no way for you to fix it or tweak it or anything. You're just stuck with it. And, you know, most of the time this is not a huge deal, but let me jump to another city, and I'll show you where this can become a really big detriment and very annoying. Okay, here is another city that I've been working on, and as you can see, this is in a more interesting geographical spot. It's not just flat as the other one is, but you can see because of the terrain, you know, this whole corner of my city is unusable. There's really nothing I can do with that, and there's nothing I can do about it. You know, big chunks over here are quite useless, and big chunks over here are quite useless. Now, this isn't inherently a bad thing, because it allows you to be creative, and it imposes constraints that pose a challenge. And, you know, that's an interesting factor to work around. However, because the city sizes are so small, it just feels very frustrating. It's very angering. You know, when you have a city that's this small anyway, and then you lose 30% of it to water and cliffs, that no longer feels like a fun constraint. It just feels annoying and frustrating and kind of like a cheap. It feels cheap. So that is a very big downside to these tiny city sizes. You know, now each one of these things that these negative factors that I'm talking about by itself wouldn't necessarily be that big of a deal. But altogether, they have a certain evil synergy that really conspires to make this game a lot less fun than it should be. Again, in here you can see the single point access that we have to our city. Not much we can do about that. The train system is also predetermined. You know, so it came down this end of my city, and I had to put a train station somewhere on there if I wanted to. Now I believe you can lay some rail tracks. I haven't really experimented with that too much, but again, because of the tiny city size, you know, laying rail to get your train station where you want it to be sacrifices so much else that it's really not worth it, so you're kind of stuck. What else to talk about? I don't hate this game, so there are some things that I really like about it. For example, the ploppable buildings being upgradable. I think that is a fantastic idea. For example, let's select a fire station, edit it, and there are a number of things that we can then add on to this ploppable building. So, you know, fire engine garages. We've already placed a fire alarm sign and flagpole. The sign and flagpole, I believe, had no effect, but the fire alarm helps the fire trucks respond more quickly to emergencies. So you can actually, you know, evolve these buildings and upgrade these buildings as your city does, which means you don't have to go plopping, you know, duplicates of the same building all over your city. Although in some cases that seems to still be the appropriate strategy, but you know, like your grade school starts out with a certain capacity, and then you can add more classrooms and more school buses. As you can see here, we've already upgraded this one completely, it looks like. That is a really nice feature. I think that was very well planned out, and that adds a bit of fun to the game. And you can do that for almost every pop-up building, you know, even the mayor's mansion, which looks like is ready for an upgrade. So let's hit upgrade. And if we edit this, you can see our mayor's mansion, actually, we can, you know, add extensions, garages, guest houses. And I don't believe that this has any effect, but it's kind of fun in this particular case. But usually these upgrades are functional. You know, my water pumping station, which is nearing capacity, we can add filtration pumps, we can add regular water pumps. You know, our streetcar depot, we can add more streetcars to it. That's a feature I really enjoy. Some other things that I do enjoy are the depth of simulation, so that the agent-based simulation. Now, if you see all these yellow dots moving around, these are electricity packets, for lack of a better word. So my power plant over here in the upper right, that sends out these packets periodically, and they travel the power grid and feed each of the buildings that requires power. Now, let me keep talking about these agents. Everything works this way. So power works this way, water works this way. You'll see the water packets are moving around. They're smaller blue dots here. Sewage works this way. See the round dots. See, moving towards my sewage treatment plant. Garbage trucks work this way. You can see here the garbage trucks moving around, working exactly the same way. Fire trucks, ambulances, all of these things work as these agents. Now, one downside to this is that all of these agents travel on the roads, so you are not placing water pipes or electrical lines anymore in this game. Everything is attached to the road, which I have noticed creates some big problems when you design the roads for vehicles, and it creates situations where, say, the power agents can go zipping right past an entire section of your city that needs power, and it'll just kind of skip it for a very long time until finally one of those power packets reaches that bit of your grid. So designing the grid for one agent can kind of mess up the other agent, and this isn't one of those situations where it's a creative balance that you're finding. It's just one of those situations where electrical power doesn't really work like people in cars, and so if you design intuitively as you think about a real city being, you're not necessarily coming out with something that's going to work in SimCity. Also, these agents can be really, really stupid. For example, all of your city buses following each other along the same route, they're all clumped up 20 buses in a row, or all your fire trucks respond to the same fire, or the power grid just ignores a giant part of your city that's out of power. So these agents don't work the way you intuitively think they would, and so again, designing a city intuitively is not really the best strategy. Really, you need to kind of learn what these agents, how they really work, and they don't work well, I guess, unfortunately. The idea and the depth of simulation that it brings is very, very cool, but there are certain things about it that create less than optimal situations. So what else can I talk about with my thoughts about SimCity so far? Another thing I love is curved roads. Of course, everybody's been waiting for that forever. It does create some issues just design-wise for your city. You end up with funny little bits of unused space. There is kind of a helper grid system, but I noticed that it here, I'll show you. If I'm going to build off of this road, it gives me, grid lines, and that creates a square grid that one high-density building can fit in, I believe. However, you'll notice if I mouse over this avenue, it creates a much wider grid, and I think that's because it's assuming that you're going to put another avenue here. So if I want, the square grid from these roads, but coming off of this one, the guidelines don't help with that. So that you have to be kind of a little clever about how you draw some guide roads and guidelines and things to get things to work out properly, but that's not a huge issue. That doesn't bother me too much. That feels like something that's kind of fun to have to figure out, but it can get a little annoying at times that these grids don't always show you what you want to see. Let's see. We've got a high school here. Another thing that I was thinking about yesterday, I did try and record this video a previous time. Yesterday I was trying to record this, and the sound levels were all screwed up when I finally finished recording, and that was a big disappointment, so I did not upload it. This is my second try at this. But after that, I had another thought. Because the city size is so small, you really feel pushed into making everything high density. You have to cram as many people into these tiny little cities as you possibly can. So there's really... and your Sims get unhappy if the density isn't growing as they want it to. So you're constantly pushed to increase the density, which is fine for kind of like your downtown area, but for example in this city, you know, I wanted to create this little area next to the mayor's mansion with, you know, some high wealth single-family homes. Well, they just don't really like it. They're ready to expand, and the simulation engine would rather use this for medium density housing as it is on the other side of the street. So really you never have a situation where you get wealthy single-family houses, you know. These have developed a little bit beyond trailer park stage, although there's still a few trailers over here. You know, sitting right next to the ocean and next to the mayor's mansion and a couple of nice parks, these guys just aren't doing much. So I feel like it pushes you to not have a balance in your city of different zoning densities. Everything becomes skyscrapers eventually, and that just reduces, again, the fun and the, you know, the creativity that you can have with this. So that was kind of something I didn't realize at first until I had played a little bit more. There are some fairly subtle interplay between commercial, residential, and industrial now that did not exist, at least to this extent, in previous SimCities, which is really nice. You know, your industries produce freight, while your commercial areas need to receive freight. You can export freight to the region. Some of that stuff is really nice. Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm kind of running out of things to say. I've gotten off my chest most of the really annoying things that have been bothering me about this game, but I didn't really want to I didn't want to make this video just a rant. I really wanted to give people kind of a more in-depth idea of how these factors work to either increase or decrease enjoyment of the game. The bottom line, I think this is much less compelling than SimCity 4 was. This, you know, the SimCity series, generally speaking, has been one that I could totally lose myself in. There was just almost an infinite number of things to try and experiment with. SimCity 5, on the other hand, feels like there's just not as many options. It feels like you reach a limit of creativity relatively quickly. And as I said, it's not any one particular feature necessarily, but a combination of other things conspire to really hurt this game. Hopefully Maxis and EA will be updating this game and fixing some of this stuff, and hopefully adding some content, although I would be very surprised if that content is not downloadable content that they're going to charge you for. Which, you know, some of this stuff just should have been in the game from the beginning. It's an essential part of what makes these games SimCity, and to charge us a second time, that feels kind of crummy. So so am I happy with the purchase of this game? Not really. Was it worth the $60? In its current state, no. I would have to say not. You know, a lot of the connection issues have been fixed for most people. For me, they're still plaguing me, so that's definitely affecting my opinion. But overall, I would say don't buy this yet. Maybe wait a year and see where it's at. Which is really sad to me. This was a very exciting game, you know, one that I was really anticipating, and it's been a disappointment. There are things I love about it, so the good, the depth of simulation with the agents is nice, the upgradable buildings. Of course, the graphics engine doesn't look great on my computer. I don't have the best computer, but turned way up, it does look gorgeous. So this is a very beautiful looking game. So those things are nice about this. The bad, tiny city size, agents that are really kind of stupid, the fact that you have no control over your regional layout, you know, in terms of geography or highways or rail or any of that. The fact that there is no terraforming, even to create your own custom regions. The fact that all of your agents follow roads rather than their own networks. That can be a downside. And the ugly, certain geographical glitches are really distracting. I mean, at certain zoom levels they show up, at certain they don't. For example, right here. And of course, the mother of all ugly in this case, the connection issues and always online aspects. So that's kind of my thoughts at this stage. If the network issues stabilize at some point, I would love to do maybe some more in-depth look at certain features, maybe in a Let's Play style, but until then, I will leave this review as it is. I'm sure I've said nothing new, nothing that anybody else hasn't said. And I am getting a bit late to the YouTube SimCity content creation stuff, but as I said, these connection issues have been a real pain. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please check out some of my other stuff. I do some other gaming related stuff. Right now I think I'm sticking to Minecraft, but you may see some other stuff soon, as well as some more talky philosophical things. I have a fun series on storytelling in video games as well. So thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this, please comment, let me know what you thought. Hit that like button if you did like it, and subscribe if you'd like, and that will all help me continue to do this. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.